Kevin, I'll pose the question to you. What did you think of Buffalo's 35-point drubbing, ass whooping, whatever you want to call it, against the Dolphins? What did it prove to you?
I mean, well, first and foremost, let's not sugarcoat anything here. This is an annihilation. This is an embarrassment. Your starting quarterback being taken out of the game or not, to be the home team and get stomped out like this just kind of shows Miami's lost on the offensive side of the ball. Buffalo got a litany of opportunities on the offensive side themselves, and they were able to capitalize. And they ran the ball effectively, and that's something that Buffalo doesn't really do, and they're not necessarily known for. But the last 2 weeks, they have been putting a little bit more effort. Overall, I think that Miami's got to get back to the drawing board. Tua may miss some significant time depending on the severity of this rib injury. Jacoby Brissett has experience in this league. Obviously, me being a Colts fan, I know that better than most. And of course, the team prior to that was the New England Patriots. So Jacoby is no scrub to the pressures of the NFL, but it seemed that he was ill-equipped and ill-prepared to play in this scenario. But again, the Buffalo's defense was also very smothering, and they did what they needed to do to stop that backup quarterback situation in which Jacoby Brissett seemed to be completely ineffective. QBR rating of 36.9, a total passer rating of 59.3. Just did not look very well whatsoever. I mean, he had an average passing attempt of 4.2 yards. So it just looked like he was playing very conservative. Now, on the other side, I'm not going to sit here and act like Josh Allen had a perfect game and he lit the Dolphins up like last season where he was an MVP caliber quarterback. I'm going to kind of go in the opposite direction. Josh Allen looks like he made a massive regression from last year to this year because last week he looked absolutely atrocious. But again, we gave him the benefit of the doubt because he played one of the better, if not the best defense in the NFL in the Pittsburgh Steelers. But then he goes into Miami. They won 35-0, but Josh Allen was basically just over 50% in terms of completion percentage. He was 17 of 33. He only had 179 yards. I know I kind of shitted on Jacoby Brissett for having a 4.2 average throw per attempt. Josh Allen had 5.4. Josh Allen's QBR was 62.9, a passer rating of 75.2, and he had a turnover. So I'm not going to go out there and give him a pass, but once again, it just seemed like the Buffalo defense was able to put their offense in a position to score because they had 3 total rushing touchdowns, 1 by Singletary and 2 by Zach Moss, and one of the rushing touchdowns by Josh Allen was taken away. So I would say more that this game could have been a lot worse, especially if Josh Allen were to play up to par. But I'm going to just mainly focus on the fact of Miami's ineptitude or unavailability to score on offense. I mean, 0 points. They could not get it going. They ran the ball 20 times for an average of 3.6 yards per carry. They had a total of 145 passing yards together. Tua was sacked 2 times. Jacoby was sacked 4. So again, highlighting on that Buffalo defense. But Miami's got to go back to the drawing board, man. They have offensive talent. They have a good team. They're very young, but Brian Flores has a very good defense put together. So I'm really, really, really looking for them to bounce back next week. But this being a division battle, it's not looking good for Miami right now.
No, it really kind of goes to show just Buffalo's owning of the Miami Dolphins. It was like you mentioned last year at the end of the regular season, Buffalo puts up 50 plus in a game that the Dolphins, had they beaten Buffalo and had some things work out their way, they would have ended up in the playoffs. But it was just an absolute onslaught today by Buffalo. Now, granted, it wasn't the show that we've seen from Josh Allen recently because, excuse me, with Josh Allen, by and large, he's coming off of almost an MVP caliber season last year where he just lit up opposing defenses. But it's like you said at the beginning of this year, it seems like he has struggled a little bit. So I thought by and large, they didn't need to rely on Josh Allen's arm in this game. The fact of the matter is, they seem to be a much more balanced team, or at least they're making the effort to run the ball a little bit more effectively than they did last year when, by and large, 75 to 85% of the time, it was Josh Allen or die, and they basically put no effort into the run game whatsoever. So I do appreciate the fact that Buffalo's coaching staff has made adjustments from last year. They are trying to make the run game a more focal point in the offense, and it did show today. The fact of the matter is they had almost 150 yards rushing. You combine that with the fact that Josh Allen had about 170 yards passing. Overall, the offense had about 310, 315 yards offensively. But you combine that with what the defense put up today, which was a shutout. You get the 35.5 touchdown ass whooping against the Miami Dolphins. Fact of the matter is that the defense was sensational today. Granted, they were going up against a backup quarterback, but you got 6 sacks. So the fact that they were able to bring constant pressure against Miami is kind of a tip to the hat to them. So I do appreciate the fact that, despite the fact that Miami lost their backup quarterback, Buffalo never lost sight of the fact that, you still have to treat your opponent up to snuff despite a backup being in. And they did that very well today. So with Buffalo, I'm not really concerned with them in the long term. I still think that they're going to be at the top of the AFC East when it's all said and done at the end of the year. My concern is with Miami, though. You lose Tua Tagovailoa to an injury that we don't know how long he's going to be out for. He did get cracked on that play that took him out of the game. So we're going to have to monitor that rib injury as the season progresses. Hopefully it's not too bad. So hopefully he can bounce back from that sooner rather than later. But Miami's offense just cannot get it together. They scored 17 points in a really close game against New England in week 1. They threw up 0 in this game. And they just don't really have a great offensive identity. I mean, they only ran the ball for 71 yards today. They only had about 150 yards passing with Jacoby in. So they're going to have to find some sort of identity to work on with the offense here, because they can't solely rely on the defense to hold the team together as far as like the score goes, because if the offense is going to make no effort whatsoever to try to get points up on the board, it's going to put way too much pressure on that defense, and the defense is going to crack. And we saw that against Buffalo today. So I'm actually surprised when I look at this game overall that the score wasn't higher than 35-0, but it really kind of goes to show that, Buffalo is, as far as I'm concerned, they're still at the top of the AFC East. And when it comes to Miami, Miami's in trouble. How much trouble they're in, I don't know yet. We'll kind of make that assessment when we get Tua's injury report back. But if he's out for a significant period of time, I think there's definitely some worry when it comes to Miami for the foreseeable future.